Ever get that feeling that some people they
Yeah.
just get it?
Uh,
They walk into a room, command attention, build rapport instantly. It feels effortless.
yeah, definitely.
Well, what if there's a hidden language behind all that? A language of cues. We saw this explored in that great Diary of a CEO interview with Vanessa Van Edwards.
Right, the behavioral investigator.
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into that language.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to pull out the most powerful, actionable insights from that interview. Give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut.
A shortcut to understanding and maybe even controlling those cues.
Yeah,
The nonverbal stuff, the verbal stuff, everything that shapes how people see you.
precisely. We want to give you the tools, the knowledge to boost your communication, amplify your charisma, make a bigger impact without having to sift through hours of material yourself.
And Vanessa Van Edwards, she's the real deal, right? Not just theory.
Oh, absolutely. Best-selling author, expert in the science of people skills.
Mm.
Her research is solid, science-backed. She's worked with, over 400,000 students?
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's essentially cracked the code on this hidden language.
So the core idea is successful people aren't just born communicators.
Not necessarily. I mean, many have learned, maybe consciously, maybe not, to speak this language of cues really fluently.
They know how to send the right signals
Yeah,
and read others accurately.
exactly. And mastering that is, fundamental for relationships, for your career, everything.
It's kind of wild when you hear that statistic and 82% of first impressions are based on just two things.
Warmth and competence.
It's just those two. Think about that. If we can just be more intentional about the cues for those two qualities.
We're already miles ahead. It gives you a huge advantage.
So that's what we're doing today. Breaking down specific cues for warmth and competence.
That's the plan. Really practical stuff. We want you to walk away with things you can try out, like today. See some real results.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts. What exactly are these cues? It's more than just remembering to smile, I assume.
Oh, way more. It's a whole world. You've got body language, obviously facial expressions, tiny ones even, gestures, how you hold yourself.
Posture.
Right. Then there's vocal tone, pace, volume, the melody, the cadence of your voice.
Okay.
Then the actual words you choose, verbal communication. And even what Vanessa calls ornaments.
Ornaments, like
Those are-
jewelry.
Yeah, or clothing, accessories, just your overall presentation. It all sends a signal.
So it's the whole symphony, really. And I remember something about how our brains prioritize this stuff. Like we trust the nonverbal more.
Yeah, that's a key point. Research shows our brains are like 12.5 times more likely to believe a gesture over the word someone says.
12 and a half times. Wow.
Yeah. Our bodies often give the game away, Vanessa has that little experiment say, 5, hold up 3 fingers.
Right, I remember that. It shows that disconnect.
Exactly. Highlights how much weight the nonverbal carries.
Does that mean, okay, if someone's maybe being a bit dishonest, they might gesture less?
Generally, yeah. Liars often show fewer gestures. It's thought that it takes more brain power, more cognitive load to manage the lie and control the body language at the same time.
Okay, so these warmth and competence cues are clearly important. Where do they really make the biggest difference in, everyday life?
Everywhere, really. Think about friendships, romantic relations. They're built on feeling warmth, approachability.
Sure.
Then career-wise, projecting competence.
Yeah.
That directly impacts whether you get the promotion, the raise,
Makes sense.
and ultimately just feeling more confident yourself in any social situation. Understanding and controlling these keys helps with that too.
It's interesting. We often think being smart is enough, that intelligence just opens doors automatically. But Vanessa challenges that, doesn't she?
She really does. She calls it the big lie, this idea that being brilliant automatically means you have good people skills.
Right.
But the reality is no matter how smart you are, if you can't communicate effectively, if you can't connect, you're going to hit roadblocks. In relationships, reaching your goals.
And this isn't just academic for her. She calls herself a recovering awkward person.
Exactly. She said she used to think charisma was just something you're born with. But then she found research back in 2002 showing it's actually learnable.
Ah, a light bulb moment.
Totally. So she went on this mission to decode it all. Connection, social interaction. And her research since then, it's really focused on helping those brilliant but awkward folks, as she puts it.
Letting them get their ideas heard and valued.
Yeah, making sure their talents don't get overlooked just because the communication isn't quite there.
She also talked about ambiverts. That was a new one for me.
Ambiverts, right. So they're people who get energy from specific people and environments. Not like extroverts who get charged up by almost any social interaction, or introverts who often find it draining.
Okay, so they can be on when needed?
Yeah, they can dial up the extroversion for a big meeting or presentation, but then they really need downtime to recharge afterwards. It's not their default state.
That's actually a really useful distinction. Knowing if you're an ambivert could help manage your energy better.
Absolutely. It's about figuring out who and what drains your social battery versus what fills it up.
And setting boundaries based on that.
Exactly. Setting boundaries with the drainers and optimizing your environment, choosing places that support your energy.
And it's not just the nonverbal stuff, is it? The words themselves matter a lot.
Oh, hugely.
Mm.
Vanessa shared that study about the same exact game, but calling it the community game versus the Wall Street game.
Yeah. Big difference in behavior.
Massive difference. People playing the community game were way more cooperative. The key insight there is just how powerful language is. Be hyper-aware. Even one word can shift how people think and act.
So we need to be really intentional, even in things like emails, calendar invites.
Definitely. Using words that subtly prime the feeling you want, like saying collaborative session instead of just meeting. It sets a different tone.
She also talked about people who try to be, like, stoic or unreadable. That sounds like it could backfire.
It really can. You might think you're projecting strength, but if you suppress all your emotional cues, it makes it hard for people to connect with you, to trust you.
Like that example of Jamie Siminoff, the Ring founder, on Shark Tank.
Exactly. Great idea, potentially. But initially, no deal. Partly because he wasn't really conveying his passion, his vision, effectively through his cues.
So it's about amplifying your feelings authentically, not shutting them down.
Right. Using the right cues to match what you're genuinely feeling.
It feels like a lot of people struggle with feeling either overlooked or maybe underestimated. Can understanding cues help there?
Oh, for sure. If you feel invisible, learning competence cues can help you project that authority you have.
Okay.
And conversely, if people say you're intimidating or hard to approach, focusing on warmth cues can make you more relatable, help build those connections.
And what about resting bothered face? We all know someone, or maybe are someone.
Yeah, the research suggests a lot of people have a neutral face
Mhm.
that others read as negative, angry, sad, whatever.
But very few people have a naturally happy resting face.
Very few. So consciously keeping a more approachable expression takes effort, which is why Vanessa says, don't try to master all 97 cues she identified.
97. Okay, yeah, good advice. Pick a few key ones.
Exactly. Be strategic. Focus on a few that will make the biggest difference for you.
And just to be clear, charisma isn't about being the loudest person, the bubbly extrovert.
Not at all. Vanessa really stresses this. True charisma comes from that balance, warmth and competence. You can be a quiet introvert and still be incredibly charismatic if you signal both trust and capability authentically.
Okay, let's get specific then. You mentioned power cues, competence cues. For people who need to be taken more seriously, what are some big ones?
Right, competence cues, vital if you want to project authority. One classic one is the steeple hand gesture.
Ah, the triangle with the fingertips.
Exactly. You bring your fingertips together, it signals confidence, poise. Key insight. Use it sparingly but deliberately when you want to project that authority. Just watch out for nervous drumming of the fingers inside the steeple.
Okay, got it. Use it intentionally. What's another one?
Another subtle but powerful one is the earlobe to shoulder distance.
Really? How does that work?
Well, a greater distance between your earlobe and your shoulder correlates with both perceived confidence and actually feeling more confident.
So relaxed shoulders, basically.
Relaxed shoulders, head level, what Vanessa calls Earls out. Keep your Earls out. It's relevant in person.
Yeah.
But also think about profile pictures, Zoom calls. Keep your chin level, though, not tilted down.
Rolls out. I like that. Very actionable, especially for video calls. What about eye contact? We always hear about eye contact.
Crucial for competence.
Mm.
The key thing Vanessa highlights is making eye contact at the end of your sentences.
At the end. Why then?
It helps land your point, shows conviction. It's natural to look away briefly while you're thinking, processing. But bringing your gaze back as you finish the statement reinforces that you stand by what you said. In Western culture, the sweet spot is around 60–70% eye contact overall. Too much can feel aggressive.
Right, not staring constantly. Okay, 60–70% landing the gaze at the end. You also mentioned a lower lid flex. Sounds very specific.
It is subtle. The lower lid flex, it signals intense focus, engagement. Biologically, we slightly tighten our lower lids when we're trying to see something far off or really scrutinize something.
Ah, okay.
So when you do that subtly while looking at someone, it non-verbally says, I'm really trying to see you, understand you. Vanessa mentioned it's common in photos of people deemed attractive, that blue steel look, maybe.
Huh? Maybe. So it's like saying, I'm really present non-verbally. That's interesting. And noticing it in others, like during a presentation.
Yeah, if you see someone doing it while you're speaking, it might mean they're really processing, maybe formulating a question or concern. Good cue to perhaps pause and check in.
Okay, useful. And the last competence cue was about the voice.
Yes. Number 5 is the downward vocal inflection. Ending your sentences with your pitch going down, not up like a question.
Right. The questioning inflection makes you sound uncertain.
Exactly. Downward inflection signals confidence, certainty. Think about powerful speakers, leaders. They tend to use that downward tone. Even saying your name or your price, end it going down.
Makes you sound more definitive.
It does. And there was that study on surgeons' vocal tones. Upward inflections, perceived lower warmth and competence actually correlated with more malpractice lawsuits.
Wow. Real world consequences. Okay,
Right.
those competence cues are fascinating. Subtle ways to project authority. Now let's flip it. Warmth cues. For people told they're maybe intimidating or who just want to build rapport faster.
Right. If you want to dial up warmth, make people feel comfortable, first cue, the triple nod.
Okay, 3 nods.
Slow, deliberate triple nod. It's a nonverbal, keep going. Encourages the other person to speak longer. Research suggests it can make them talk up to 67% longer.
67%. That's significant.
It is. Key insight. Use the slow triple nod for active listening, but avoid, like, manic bobbleheading. That looks fake or impatient.
Okay, slow and deliberate. Got it. What's another warmth cue?
Second one, a slight head tilt.
Tilting the head.
Yeah, just a slight tilt to one side. It signals listening, empathy. It's pretty universal across cultures. Research even found people receive bad news better if it's delivered with a slight head tilt.
Interesting. So it softens things.
It seems to. Again, moderation is key. Don't overdo it. It can be a good replacement for too much nodding, actually. Shows
It
engagement.
looks you look more open, understanding.
Okay.
And a smile. That has to be in there.
Third cue, an authentic smile. The Duchenne smile.
The one that reaches the eyes.
Exactly. Crinkles the eyes. That's the one that signals genuine warmth, sincerity. Not the fake, just the mouse kind of smile.
It's all in the eyes. Okay, number 4.
Fourth warmth cue, a subtle lean. Leaning in slightly towards the person shows you're engaged, interested.
Both when speaking and listening.
Both. As a speaker, it can help emphasize a point, connect. As a listener, it shows you care, you're paying attention. But again, subtle. Don't overlean. That could look submissive, like you're bowing, or even a bit too intense. Use it like a highlighter for important moments.
A highlighter. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay, and the 5th warmth cue.
Fifth involves what Vanessa calls nonverbal bridges. These are small physical gestures to kind of close the distance, signal connection.
Like a touch on the arm?
Could be a brief, appropriate touch if it feels right and you're mirroring their comfort level, or just subtly shifting your position a bit closer. Keyword is subtle. Avoid anything too enthusiastic or lingering. That can feel awkward.
Right, read the room. Okay, those warmth cues are all about making the other person feel heard, comfortable, valued. Now, you mentioned something called the cue cycle. What's that about?
The cue cycle. It basically explains how communication is this loop, right? It's reciprocal. If someone sends a negative cue your way, maybe a tiny eye roll, a scoff, you receive it, process it internally. And that can trigger you to send negative cues back. It creates this downward spiral.
Yeah, you can feel that shift in energy sometimes. It gets tense.
Totally. Research shows even small rejection cues can trigger a fight or flight response in us. Pupil dilation, the whole thing.
Wow. So how do we stop that negative cycle?
The good news is we can interrupt it by simply labeling the negative cue in your head. If you see a lip purse, just mentally note, lip purse, or red flag gesture.
Just naming it.
Yeah. Dr. Matthew Lieberman's research suggests that active labeling actually dampens the emotional impact of the cue. It empowers you, gives you a moment to choose a more constructive response instead of just reacting.
That's really powerful. Become aware, label it, choose your response. Don't just mirror negativity. Okay, let's dig into hand gestures more. You said they're like windows into the soul.
Yeah, Vanessa's phrase. And it's true, we often underestimate them. Our brains actually have this slight negative reaction when we can't see someone's hands.
Really? Why?
It's subconscious, probably goes way back. Hidden hands mean potential threat, unknown intentions. Visible hands are reassuring. They signal openness. I have nothing to hide.
Ah, that explains why she suggests flashing your palms briefly when you meet someone.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
quick, maybe even unconscious friends signal with the palms. Non-verbally says, no threat here.
Okay. And beyond the greeting, how do good communicators use their hands?
They use them dynamically. to outline their words, emphasize points, almost like drawing pictures in the air to go along with what they're saying, makes it much more engaging.
Like illustrating your points.
Yeah, and the data backs it up. That TED Talk study, viral speakers used way more hand gestures, averaged 465 in 18 minutes.
Compared to
Less popular speakers averaged around 271. Big difference. It's not just about confidence, it's engagement, making the message stick.
465 gestures. That's a lot of movement.
It is. And there's a feedback loop, too. More expressive hands often lead to more vocal variety, more intonation. It all works together to connect with the audience.
It's all connected. You even mentioned the physical environment affecting body language, like the chairs in this studio.
Absolutely. Removing the armrests, for example, can subtly encourage more arm movement, more expressive conversation, and proximity is huge.
Proximity, like personal space.
Exactly. Anthropologists talk about proxemic zones: public, social, personal, intimate. For good conversation, that personal zone, about an arm's length, is usually ideal.
And video calls, people get that wrong.
Often, yeah. Placing the webcam too close pushes you into their intimate zone, which can feel weird in a professional setting. Vanessa's rule of thumb: position your webcam about one arm's length away.
One arm length. Good tip. And you mentioned noisy places like bars actually help connections sometimes.
Yeah, because the noise forces you to lean in closer, often entering that intimate zone just to hear each other. That closeness can trigger intimacy cues, maybe foster a connection faster than it might otherwise.
Okay, let's bring it back to charisma. That magic combo. Warmth and competence.
That's the core framework from Dr. Susan Fiska's research, yeah. Charisma is hitting that sweet spot. High warmth, trustworthy, likable, and high competence, capable, powerful. And that combo drives, what, 82% of our impression?
82%. So most people probably lean one way or the other naturally. Like high competence might seem cold.
Exactly. Think of them like dials you can adjust. There's the danger zone, low on both. But yeah, too much competence without enough warmth, people get suspicious.
And too much warmth without competence.
Can undermine you. You might seem nice, but maybe not capable or credible. Finding that balance is key.
So find the balance. You also mentioned aggressively liking people. Sounds intense. What's that about?
It's about being proactive in making other people feel liked. A deliberate strategy for likability. Vanessa shared 3 magic phrases.
Okay, lay them on me.
1, I was just thinking of you, used genuinely, maybe with a quick text or mentioning something that reminded you of him.
Nice. Simple.
2, you're always so. And then fill in a genuine positive label you've noticed. You're always so good at explaining complex things.
Okay, specific praise.
And 3, last time we talked, you mentioned. Shows you listened, you remember details.
Ah, that's powerful. Makes people feel really seen.
Totally. And it fights that signal application bias, where we think our positive feelings are more obvious than they are. These phrases make it explicit.
So for me, doing interviews, those 5 warmth cues you mentioned earlier, they're my toolkit for making guests feel comfortable.
Absolutely. The triple nod, head tilt, genuine smile, lean, nonverbal bridges. Use those. They create a welcoming space, encourage people to open up, feel heard. Invaluable for facilitating conversation.
Great advice. Now, for listeners who might relate to Vanessa's recovering awkward label, how do you even start building these skills? It can feel daunting.
Vanessa's turning point was huge. That professor telling her to study people like science.
Treat it like a subject to learn.
Exactly. Realizing people's skills aren't fixed. They're learnable behaviors, strategies. You could experiment, practice, even if you're introverted. But it is a journey. Vanessa shared that story about misreading faces at a dinner party even after she started her research.
Right, it takes time, not an overnight fix.
It involves shifting your mindset, moving from "I'm bad at this" to "this is a skill I can develop." Recognizing maybe you were just asking boring questions or trying too hard to impress instead of connecting.
The key being help others impress you.
That's a big part of it. Shift the focus and celebrate those small moments of heroism, as she called them. Small successes build momentum. Change that self-narrative from "I'm awkward" to "maybe I'm learning."
And these cues obviously matter in the workplace too, not just social settings.
Oh, absolutely. That study about high and low performers affecting people within 25 feet.
Yeah.
It shows how contagious emotions are, especially negative ones.
Yeah.
And that other study, the gross but fascinating one about fear transmitted through sweat.
Ugh, okay. Point taken. Our states impact each other.
Right. So being intentional with positive cues can create those positive cue cycles at work, make the environment better for everyone.
It's incredible how much influence we have, even subtly. What about personal branding and cues?
Personal branding is all about intentionally shaping perception. Vanessa talked about that spectrum. Ideas promotion, focusing on your smarts versus deficiency promotion. Maybe unintentionally building your brand around struggles.
So be truthful, but also intentional.
Exactly. Focus on showcasing what you want to do, the skills you want to use to attract the right opportunities and connections. Be authentic, but deliberate.
Proactive and authentic. Okay. Now, a listener asked about helping a friend with shriveled posture. How do you approach that delicately?
Yeah, Vanessa tackled that. Anxiety often makes us contract, take up less space physically, crossed arms, minimal gestures.
The shriveled look.
Right. So instead of just saying stand up straight, which rarely works.
And can feel critical.
Right. Encourage activities that naturally get them to move more broadly, release tension, hiking, dancing, maybe pickleball, ping pong,
Right.
something active.
Get the body moving differently.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because familiar settings can trigger those old contracted patterns. New activities, new contexts can help break that cycle physically.
That makes sense. Change the activity, change the state. You also mentioned gender differences in reading body language.
Yeah, that MRI study was interesting. It found women tend to activate more brain areas
Yeah.
when looking at body language pics. Suggests maybe a more holistic narrative interpretation.
Whereas men might focus more on specific cues.
Sometimes, yeah. But these are just general tendencies. Obviously important not to overgeneralize or stereotype.
Sure.
But it's worth being aware of potential differences, like maybe a tendency sometimes for women to globalize one bad cue into a whole negative story, while men might isolate it more or give another chance. Just possibilities to consider.
Interesting process in the differences. Okay, so beyond the tactics, the tips and tricks, how do we build deeper connections?
Well, the cues are the starting point, right? They open the door. But deeper connection needs genuine interest, empathy, real listening. Vanessa stresses anyone can learn and improve. For that listener's friend Joe, maybe just focus on a few basics first.
Like what?
Stop asking boring questions. Make eye contact. Ask better questions. Those small changes build confidence. And confidence leads to better interactions, which builds more confidence. It's a positive loop.
Start small, build momentum. Okay, slightly cheeky question now. If you get good at reading and using cues, does that make you better at spotting lies? Asking for a friend.
Huh. Everyone wants to know that. Look, being more aware of cues might make you notice inconsistencies more, but honestly, most people are only about 54% accurate at lie detection. That's barely better than flipping a coin.
54%. So not great.
Not great at all. So crucial not to get overconfident. Give people the benefit of the doubt generally.
Okay, so we're not becoming human polygraphs, but are there any statistical cues to deceit? Things that pop up more often, maybe? Not proof, but red flags.
Research points to a few things that correlate more often with deception, but again, not definitive proof.
Hmm.
One is that question inflection on a statement,
Mm-hmm.
especially about numbers, boundaries, timelines.
Ending upwards when it should be downwards.
Right. Another is a sudden drop in vocal volume on a specific topic can signal anxiety.
Okay.
Then incongruencies, saying yes while shaking your head no. Obvious stuff like that, though you need to know cultural norms there.
Right, some cultures swalk those head movements.
Exactly. And finally, mismatched facial expressions, especially a quick flash of disgust nose wrinkle, upper lip lift when talking about something they claim to like. That can signal discomfort with the lie. Even subtle sniffing can sometimes indicate disgust.
Fascinating. Subtle flashes. Good to be aware of, but yeah, cautiously. Now, you also mentioned ambivalent relationships. That sounds exhausting.
They really are. Those relationships where you're just not sure how you feel or how they feel about you, it fluctuates.
The uncertainty.
Yeah. And that uncertainty is incredibly draining,
Yeah.
often more draining than a clearly toxic relationship to avoid. That study on police officers showed it more ambivalent ties meant worse job satisfaction, worse well-being.
Wow. More than overtly bad relationships.
Seems so,
Ah.
because you're constantly analyzing, guessing. Takes so much energy.
So what's the advice? How do you handle those?
Evaluate them, honestly, especially the ones where feelings are murky. Have deeper conversations. Try to get clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And be willing to either invest more to strengthen it or create distance if that ambiguity just won't clear up. Don't stay stuck in that limbo.
Be intentional about where your energy goes. Makes sense. Okay, a classic question. Starting conversations. How do you do it effectively? It trips so many people up.
Vanessa's take is refreshingly simple. Don't sweat the opener too much.
Really?
Yeah. A simple, hey, your name is usually fine. What matters more is the nonverbal delivery. Your
Yeah.
body language, face, tone. Be open, warm, genuine.
So the how is more important than the what initially?
Pretty much. And then move past the autopilot questions. Ditch the what do you do?
Yes.
Right. Ask excitement-based questions instead. Anything fun or exciting happened this past weekend? Or got any exciting plans coming up? Get much better answers.
Opens things up more like that. What about finding your own style with all this? Not everyone's naturally expressive.
Great point. Vanessa told that story about President Harry S. Truman. Introverted, knew he wasn't a great orator,
Right.
so he focused on authenticity, directness. That was his way. The key is self-awareness. Know your strengths,
Mm.
weaknesses. Use the cues in a way that feels authentic to you, not like you're putting on an act.
Be true to yourself. Always the best advice. Okay, one more scenario. Helping a friend find a partner. How do cues play into that?
It's about helping your friend broadcast their best self, their real qualities, values, desired lifestyle, using social media, conversations, activities to signal who they are and what they're looking for.
Showcasing the good stuff.
Yeah. And encouraging them to take up space physically with good posture, open body language, and verbally sharing their thoughts, being present, maybe suggesting activities where they'd naturally feel more confident and open.
Put your best authentic self forward. Got it. Wow, this has been incredibly insightful. So wrapping up, the big takeaway seems to be understand and consciously use these verbal and nonverbal cues. Focus on warmth and competence, and you can seriously upgrade your communication and impact.
That's pretty much it. Become fluent in this hidden language of connection.
Yeah.
And it's not about being fake or manipulative. It's about being clearer, more authentic, building stronger relationships, and feeling more confident.
So for everyone listening, what's one simple thing they could do, like today?
I'd say pick one competence cue and one warmth cue that really stood out to you from our chat. Just one of each.
Okay.
And then just consciously try to use those two cues in your next few interactions. See what happens. Observe the effect.
It's a small experiment. I love it.
Oh.
Now, we have our tradition, the question from the previous guest. Vanessa, the question for you was, when in your life did you try to outrun your pain and what was the consequence? When in your life did you turn and face your pain and what was the consequence? That's a deep one.
Wow. That is a profound question. Um, Thinking back, I think early on, feeling that awkwardness, that social discomfort, I definitely try to outrun it.
How so?
But trying to be someone I wasn't, overly performative, trying too
Mm.
hard to impress or fit in. The consequence, honestly, it just felt inauthentic.
Hmm.
And I still felt disconnected deep down. It didn't really work.
And turning to face it.
That really started, I think, when I began studying it, facing the awkwardness, trying to understand why I felt that way,
Yeah.
what was actually happening in those interactions. It was uncomfortable for sure. But the consequence of facing it, learning about it,
Mm.
that's where the genuine confidence started to build. That's when I could connect more authentically.
Facing it led to understanding and then to authentic connection. That's incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Vanessa Van Edwards, for all this amazing work. We'll definitely link to your books and resources for everyone who wants to dive even deeper.
And for you listeners, maybe try that 30-day know what do you do diet, or check out a charisma quiz online to see where you land on that warmth competence scale.
Ultimately, it's all a journey, isn't it? Learning, connecting, consciously choosing how we show up in the world. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.